our forest. So we put a lot of money into fire adaptation for our local communities so that they are informed and engaged in making themselves safer in the rural communities. And a lot of immigrant communities are out there where they weren't even getting the information in their language when we were having those severe fires. So that has been a huge piece. But the other is because we put a price on carbon and we have this revenue where the big polluters are paying. I've worked with Senator Rolfus when she was the chair of Ways and Means and I was vice chair of transportation to make sure that we had money in there for natural climate solutions, would allowed us then to put money in and be able to purchase some of these encumbered, working forests that are more like plantations and use that money to protect the complex healthy forests that we have. About 4% of DNR's land that we manage should be protected. And instead of doing the leases where they just come in and clear cut, what we should be doing is really managing it with climate science and updating our sustainable forest policies so that we're doing, instead right now, what we do is mostly clear cut and a little bit of commercial thinning and restorative thinning. What we need to do is turn that upside down and do a lot more commercial thinning so that we are building more resiliency into our current forests. And then as we are looking to replant, that we plant to a standard that actually makes it more resilient to fire. So I agree with you. The fires that we're seeing do not need to be this extreme. Climate change is a real impact, but part of it is if we can double down and really make sure that we're getting all of our forests to a healthy standard, partnering with our tribes and sovereign communities and making sure that we're working with local communities. I'll say just one thing that I was able to get through this legislature, which is super exciting, is we were able to build on the 83 million for being able to, for natural climate solutions, added another 15 million there. And then we added another 25 million to partner with the Quinault Nation so that they're able to buy back what was a privately owned forest back into, which is that they now will own and steward it. And we know that they have best practices around stewardship. So so definitely more work that we will do with tribes in terms of prescription fires or cultural burning so that when wildfires happen, they do not have to be so extreme.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for, Karen, I see your hand raised.
I'm also interested about our coastal lands and how much they've been impacted by the commercial fishing and all the things that we've done, and want to know what your plans are to preserve our beaches and stuff.
Thank you so much, Karen. So it is interesting. I mean, not everyone knows that DNR manages, of course, our forests, but also the bottoms of all the lakes and a lot of our shorelines and near shore. And so, again, I think part of it is making sure we partner better with our agents, with the other agencies. So we have Puget Sound Partnership, we have Department of Ecology, we have our local ports and counties, and our sovereign nations, of making sure that we're partnering together about how do we improve our overall ecosystem. And a big part of how we address the ocean acidification is making sure that we are doing our part upstream to provide cooler waters in our watersheds. And so that's both how we manage our forests, also helps how we manage and create good habitat for salmon, which is critical to so many of us, to our sovereign nations, to the orcas. And the one other thing is, as state legislature, I worked with Senator Lovelet and many of my colleagues to invest in making sure that we are addressing our kelp health, the health of our kelp forests, and looking at all of our lease. And the last thing I'll say in terms of how we might start, how I would start addressing this is, again, looking at our leases that we have. Thankfully, we were able to ban farmed fishing that had a huge impact on our wild fish. But we have more to do in terms of reviewing our leasing, making sure that we're incorporating our climate science, making sure that we are partnering with Department of Ecology with their expertise to make sure that as we are looking at future opportunities, that we are making sure that we're incorporating best practices around restoration.
Wonderful, thank you. Are there any other questions? I want to thank you so much for joining us, and you are welcome to stay through our entire meeting, or you are free to have your evening back. I know that you are so busy, and we just really appreciate this opportunity to hear from you, get to ask you some questions, and learn a little bit about you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And I'm definitely committed to work with the King County Dems to make sure that we beat back all those initiatives and we make sure that we are in a really strong position to continue to do the good work together about making sure that we have a clean, fueled future and a beautiful, safe place for all of us and our children. So thank you so much. I look forward to being before you guys again, and have a wonderful meeting.
Thank you so much. I know we have a couple other candidates who have texted that they will be joining us shortly, so we just have a couple more minutes. This couple are running late. And if there is any updates or good of the order while we're waiting for candidates to, I should say, not a formal good of the order, we'll do that at the end of the meeting when everyone is here. But if there's any information or anything we want to share until they join. There has to be something new.
No, but I'd like to ask everybody how they're doing on the caucus and getting ready for it.
How's everyone doing getting ready for the April 6th delegate selection process?
Well, we've got our March 31st deadline to get people to actually apply to be delegates. And we have a lot of deadline junkies, myself included. So I'm fully outing myself. I am planning to file for delegate and just hasn't happened yet.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. March, that's right.
March 31st. So it does look like I've looked at most of the LDs, and it looks like most LDs have a lot of deadline junkies. Is that what you were asking about, or were you asking more about the event that folks are having on April 6th? Is that Carol Lynn who was asking that question? Or Karen? Okay.
So yes, it was me, and both things. And how can you talk some about what you're doing to recruit delegates?
It's mostly reaching out to PCOs and members, people who have already demonstrated that they are interested and engaged in party activity, and we also have their contact information, which makes it easier to reach out. Carrie and I had talked about doing a text program to the former Contest Every Race folks. That list is 4 years old, but those are also people who said they wanted to run for things or volunteer. So if we can get ourselves organized and get a few volunteers, we might run that text campaign as well. I don't actually know what's happening in terms of everybody's April 6th meetings. I know in the 46th, we are having an in-person meet and greet for the candidates to come meet members. So I'll see. I'll be curious to see. People keep saying they miss being in person. So hopefully we get a really good turnout for that.
That'd be fabulous. And we have Dave Updegrove with us. And Dave Updegrove, I will let you introduce yourself, tell us a bit about, introduce your campaign, tell a bit about yourself. And then if you have some time, we would like to have a couple minutes to ask you a few questions.
That would be awesome. Well,
thanks for joining us. I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, well, thanks, and for It looks like I know a lot of the folks online, but for those who don't, my name is Dave Up the Grove. I'm the chair of the King County Council, and Lord knows if I'm any good at this or not, but I have this cool last name, Up the Grove, so people keep voting for me. And after 12 years in the state legislature and 3 terms on the King County Council, I'm best known for one thing. I am the only elected official in the state of Washington with a prepositional phrase for a last name, if you remember your English class. So it's great to be here. Our world is changing. We're experiencing the impacts of climate change all around us. We are seeing a rapid loss in biodiversity, and I'm running for state lands commissioner in order to improve the management of our public lands to meet these realities of today. And for me, this is not a stepping stone to higher office. It's the culmination or the capstone of a life and career that's been spent on environment and natural resource issues. I described to a family member, it's like coming home to what led me to public service in the first place. My love of the outdoors actually began at a young age when I spent all my summers in high school and college teaching environmental science to young people out on Daybob Bay on Hood Canal, and a couple summers leading week-long treks to the North Cascade Mountains. My love of politics developed as an environmental activist on campus at the University of Colorado, where I earned my degree in environmental science and biology, later a graduate certificate in energy policy. I had the honor of representing my community, the diverse working class suburbs of South King County, for 12 years in the state legislature, where as chair of the Select Committee on Puget Sound, I worked with Governor Gregoire to help create the Puget Sound Partnership to help protect our crown jewel. Later, as chair of the House Environment Committee, I got to work in every corner of the state on pollution and climate issues, including managing and leading the legislation in the House that shut down our state's last polluting coal plant. And we did it in a way that provided a just transition for the workers and the community, and it really became a national model. Now, as chair of the King County, well, let me back up. When I was in the legislature, I served as a leader of a progressive caucus called the Blue-Green Alliance, a pro-labor, pro-environment coalition that rejected that false choice between jobs and the environment. And we worked together and advanced a sustainable economic agenda. And for that work, I was honored to be recognized as Legislator of the Year by the Washington Conservation voters. Now, as I was starting to say, I serve as chair of the King County Council, helping manage growth, land use, parks, recreation here in our state's most populous county. And I spent many years as the leader of the King County Flood Control District, where I doubled funding for salmon recovery and implemented some big reforms to help protect our region's rivers. The punchline is that you deserve a state lands commissioner who not only has strong environmental values, but also the relevant background, experience, and record of accomplishments to be effective. My agenda is pretty simple. Number 1, protect clean air, clean water, and habitat. Number 2, improve wildfire prevention and response. And number 3, and this might be the old Boy Scout in me, I want to increase recreational opportunities on our state lands. And as we do this work, it's important to stay grounded in our values. And one value I know we all share is the value of justice. It's how I've tried to live my life. I came out of the closet the year I first ran for office. And my mentor at the time said, "I love you, Dave, but it's too bad because you can't run for office." Because this was 20 some years ago. And the thought of an out gay legislator deep in the heart of South King County was unheard of. But I ran, won, and made history as the first out LGBT legislator outside the city of Seattle in the history of our state. And I share this because what drove me then still drives me today. And it's this: a passion for justice, LGBT equality, racial equality, gender equality, fighting for tribal treaty rights, labor rights. I'm the son of a father with disabilities, the brother of someone who's overcome addiction and criminal justice involvement. So this commitment to justice is personal. And when it comes to our public lands, environmental justice means recognizing that climate change disproportionately impacts low-income communities and communities of color. And our solutions need to reduce those disparities, not make them worse. And for me, environmental justice means also honoring Indigenous people by respecting tribal treaty rights and strengthening that co-management role of tribes. So as we do our work to protect our clean air and water and address public lands issues, we need to do it collectively, anchored in that value of justice. The campaign is going amazingly. I'm leading all candidates, Democrat and Republican, in fundraising, even beating Jamie Herrera in fundraising. I've built out this amazing grassroots network, particularly in the conservation movement. You can kind of tell, when your campaign is connecting with people and firing all cylinders, you can feel it and you see it in the numbers. I had 95 people show up in Clallam County for a fundraiser for me last month, and we're generating a lot of energy with a progressive environmental message that centers people in environmental justice as well. It's going to be hard. Jamie Herrera Butler is a very serious candidate. I think apart from the governor's race, I suspect this is where the GOP is going to put their energy, and this is going to be where we're going to be fighting in November. I believe I'm the strongest candidate to defeat Jamie Herrera Butler. Republicans like Dino Rossi and Rob McKenna came really close by making inroads in the suburbs in central Puget Sound, and the most fertile ground for them were the working class suburbs like South King and Pierce. And that's where I'm from, and have always outperformed other Democrats. And so we're building the kind of campaign that can win. I'm really excited about it, and appreciate all the time letting you introduce myself and share my background. I'd love to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. And does anyone have a question for Dave Upthegrove?
Especially easy ones. Yes.
Well, I'll start off with a question.
Sure.
So you've traveled around Washington State and looked at our public lands. What are some of the places outside of King County that are your favorite, that have impacted you, that you learned something new about?
Well, there's in my lifetime, and there's in the campaign. I think those are two. I'll start with my lifetime. Hood Canal and J-Bob Bay, that part of Puget Sound, is where those were the formative years of my life working out there. And it's beautiful. But one of the things I've seen, and I'm going to tie this into a policy answer I'll take, is I've been going out and touring what we call legacy forests. I've been meeting with conservation leaders and activists and actually getting out in the woods. And these are a subset. We call them almost old growth forests. They're not technically old growth, but they're naturally regenerated. They're not tree farms. They're structurally diverse. You know it when you walk into them. They store the most carbon. They have the most biodiversity. They make up about 3% of our state forest lands, but they have an outsized impact on our climate. And I have made a commitment that on day one, as your next lands commissioner, I'm going to sign a mature forest policy that ends the destruction of our mature legacy forests. And we can do this, the cool thing, and still support rural economies and jobs and fund our public services by acquiring replacement timberlands, particularly private timberlands at risk of conversion. Fun fact, about 70% of our forestry takes place on private timberlands. They often come in clear cut and then unload it for development. I want to use existing funding streams like the funding in the Climate Commitment Act to keep some of those in forestry, to replace the lands that I want to protect, these special places. And some of them have been the most impactful. The power plant timber sale right next to the Elwha River. I was out there late last summer, right as I got in the race. We spent millions to remove the dam in the Elwha River for the salmon. And now DNR was proposing selling off the timber and practically clear cutting right up to about 250 feet away from where that dam was. Unfortunately, working together with the community out there and activists and the tribes, they've pulled that back. So I think it was called the power plant timber sale. And I think that trip I made out there to the Elwha River and the power plant timber sale was one of the most impactful.
Wonderful. And Karen, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I wanted to ask you, what will be your very first thing that you do once you're elected?
That's easy because I sort of just answered it. I'll give you two. Sometimes presidential candidates say on day one, I will blah, blah, blah. And that can be a political gimmick, but there's also some strategic value in doing that. And on day one of the first things I'm going to do is sign a new policy that ends the destruction of these 77,000 acres of mature legacy forests, these special places all over the state of Washington and mostly Western Washington. And so that is something that is achievable in this role, that's meaningful, and will leave an incredible legacy. Some of the first steps actually are hiring. Let's say, that's even before day one, is to assemble the most diverse leadership team in the history of that agency, with people who have a shared progressive vision, to try to bring some transformational change with a sense of urgency by working with the community and the environmental community in particular. And so hiring top-notch, great staff is going to be key. It's a big agency, and the commissioner can't do everything, obviously, and hiring good people will be top of the list.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. Can I throw a comment out on Nepal? I noticed Kat texted me and some others. I've been very focused on fundraising and on my organizing in the conservation community. And we kind of just got through some benchmarks there. And this afternoon, right before this call, I hired someone to help with the campaign. I've been flying solo to save money without a campaign manager, and I'm getting organized, and I have about 50 to 100 invitations for meeting party organizations and forums, and I will be getting back to people within 48 to 72 hours on if your LD has reached out to me and you're waiting to hear back. I apologize for the delay, and I'm excited to get around and meet with the different LDs and get my King County endorsement scheduled and all that stuff. But if you can give me about 48 hours here, I'll get back to you.
Wonderful.
I'm going to do two things. I'm going to put my cell phone and my campaign website in the chat if people want to follow up with questions.
Wonderful. We really appreciate you joining us and telling us a bit about yourself, your campaign, what your passion for public services. It's really appreciated.
Well, I appreciate the time and the opportunity to do it, and look forward to chatting with you all more.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Take care.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Well, thank you, everyone. Those were our candidates. We had two, both for Commissioner for Public Lands, and now we will be letting people in and credentialing. I will make the same offer I had before of while we're waiting for our meeting to start at 6:30, if anyone I know has anything to share or a question for folks who are in the Zoom, this would be a great time.
I do. This is Karen. I want to know how many people are having hybrid meetings or in person or totally Zoom for their caucus.
And the 41st, I think we're going to be all in person for that one. Or it might be virtual. I think it might be
the 34th, we're virtual.
Are you talking about the candidate forum when you said caucus?
No, I'm talking about when we meet on April 6th.
The delegates.
There really is no caucus meeting that morning.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
we are.
Hi, this is the 47th. We're doing a hybrid pancake breakfast.
I love that.
Really great. And
Are you all doing a platform as well as electing delegates at your event on the 6th?
The 47th is not doing a platform.
Okay, yeah, I'm wondering if Karen is calling it a caucus because they're doing a platform too.
We're considering doing our platform at our general meeting. We are having an in-person meet the candidates forum on Friday, the evening before, at Angelo's in Burien, but we're not having an actual meeting on Saturday morning, the 33rd.
Are you doing a Zoom for, I'm just curious, for the April 6th?
No, we're not. We're not having any meeting at all on the 6th.
Okay.
It's my understanding that the email is going to be sent out. And there's a, doesn't need to be returned until 9 a.m. the next day. And that there's not technically a caucus that morning.
That's my understanding too, Jackie, is that anything we do Zoom or in person, timing, et cetera, it's all optional. In terms of community building, essentially.
Yeah, same. I got that mixed up too. But I don't even think it's
I'm just making a note. And the 47th, you're doing a pancake breakfast. Fabulous.
No
Karen-
pressure. It'd be lovely to have you, Carrie.
Oh, well, send me details.
what? Oh,
I will. Thank you.
Karen, is this helpful?
Yeah, yes, I just want to know what other people are doing, just,
Fabulous.
because I'm nosy.
Anyone else have any event or any questions while we're all here?
Well, I'll tell you, the 45th is having a hybrid meeting. And we're meeting at a middle school for the in-person and then the hybrid. And I'll let you know how it goes.
Wonderful.
Carrie, have you heard back from Alex about the credentialing?
So yes, as a matter of fact, he just texted, he cannot do credentialing, but he will, it is Elizabeth's birthday, but he will be here for the portion of the meeting. He just wants me to text him 5 minutes before.
I'll grab a couple people and start figuring out credentialing.
Thank you. Where's Angelo's, Jackie?
Let me grab it real quick and I'll put the address in the chat as well.
I think I'm trying to think if it's where I think it is. My if I look at my phone, so I need to send you a picture of my cat. So yes, my cat got shaved like a lion, and he's doing great from last month. And my 14-year-old, she'll be 15 in June. She has tried out for cheerleading and did not make it her freshman year. Very devastating. But her friends didn't make it either, so that made it easier. And they all are right now trying out. It's their second day. And as a mom, I feel like my it's one of these moments. It's a little I think I'm more nervous than she is for that. Is she gonna make it? Is she not? It's one of those amazing things. And they're all meeting in Burien. So that's why I was Angela's brought that up. Oh, 53rd. Okay. That's great. I might be able to make yours, Jackie. I'll be just coming back into town. Does anyone else have anything that you would like to share? Ask questions while we're all here. I don't have background music. We've got about 3 minutes.
Somebody can break out some karaoke.
What was that?
Somebody can break out some karaoke. Somebody.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you start. Go ahead. Just shows how it's done. And the whole reason I'm so nervous about my youngest is that there are 60 people trying out for 2
Wow.
weeks. So, oh,
60 trying out for how many spots?
2.
2. Oh,
I know. It's oh, it's hard.
but she does at least have had the experience of going through tryouts before, which probably helps.
I think so. And I think it's like if she doesn't make it and her friends don't, then it's golden. But there's only 2, so I think it's the experience. And at least she's trying out. I don't know that I had that as a freshman in my high school. But I'm not going to tell you what era that was.
Yeah.
Because it was a little awkward to talk about my high school. Which actually, yeah. The good old Juanita. Yep. Juanita High School. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My high school. So this is a segue of totally what it is. So we were the Rebels. Do you guys remember Juanita Rebels? Yeah. So they changed the name. I think it was a year before George Floyd to the Juanita Ravens, because what I didn't realize was on like all of our like yearbooks was a Confederate flag.
Oh.
I didn't know this. It was like the rebels. And I was thinking rebels like, oh, we're sticking it to the man. But somewhere along the line, it was like this little like Yosemite Sam. Like the weirdest thing ever. Yeah.
What?
So that's awkward.
Um, if we're talking about Confederate flag stories, when I was in high school and I was in a band, and folks at the last day of school, folks sign each other's yearbooks and things like that. One of the kids drew a Confederate flag in a black kid's yearbook in band class on the last day.
Did
Yeah.
you know what he was doing?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
North Carolina.
This isn't like King County. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. That sucks so bad. Like,
Yeah.
who does that? Yeah. I think we were really undereducated, and I'm not going to tell you what era that was, but it was a long time ago. Some people here weren't born, probably. Including my PCO chair, wherever he's going to be here later. We'll give it a couple minutes. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Mary, Galaxy, Holly. Well, if there's anything you want to share, we're just waiting just for a couple more people to join, and then I'll call this meeting to order. We have a bit of we have the agenda, and we've heard from 2 candidates prior, and we'll also, again, I want to share again, the 40 from 5:45 to 6:15, we are inviting our statewide candidates to come and tell us a bit about themselves, have a minute to interact, and have an opportunity for you all to ask questions. Our endorsement team is doing an amazing job, and I'm hoping during our meeting, if Kat Pipkin is available, I know she's also our secretary, just to give a 2-sentence how the endorsement meetings are going to the team. So thank you. But it's great. This is a real opportunity for interaction directly with the candidates before our meeting. So I will give it 30 more seconds. Okay, thank you, everyone. It is 6:33 and I will call this meeting to order. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm really looking forward to a really great agenda, and this is really interactive. So one of the things I want to share is that there have been some philosophies around our acknowledgement of tribal lands. One camp says that those that are occupiers should be the one to read the land acknowledgement. There's a philosophy that the indigenous person within your community should read the land acknowledgement. And I want to split the baby and say both are important. And acknowledging our tribal land, I am going to read what Hunter Brown has prepared for our tribal acknowledgement, which I think is appropriate. On behalf of the King County Democrats, I acknowledge the land on which we stand today, and as the traditional home of the Coast Salish and Duwamish tribes, and the traditional home of all tribes and bands within the Squamish, Tulalip, Snoqualmie, and Muckleshoot nations. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, and gathered upon these lands in a balanced and sustainable manner. We thank them as the original caretakers of these lands and waters, and for their continued advocacy and stewardship. Furthermore, we recognize the invaluable contributions from these and all tribes to our state history, economy, and culture. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and trespasses, and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society. Thank you. Next, we will move to our consent agenda. And with this, we are both adopting the agenda for tonight and approving our February minutes. I will grab this. They both were sent out in the call to meeting. And are there any objections to our consent agenda? Are there any objections? Melissa Taylor.
It's not an objection, but I've had a request in the chat for a link to the agenda document. So if we could put links to the agenda document and the minutes in the chat, that would be appreciated.
You got it. Here's one. And let me grab these.
Looks like Kat is grabbing them.
Okay. Oh, she's got it. There we go. And I jumped the gun a little. I will entertain a motion to adopt our consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Hearing none, the consent agenda is adopted. Thank you. And next, we are in Women's History Month. And Women's History Month is a dedicated month to reflect on the often overlooked contributions of women in our history of the United States, from Abigail Adams to Susan B. Anthony, Sojourner Truth to Rosa Parks. The timeline of women's history milestones stretches back to the founding of the United States. The actual celebration of Women's History Month grew out of a week-long celebration of women's contributions to culture, history, and society organized by the School District of Sonoma, California in 1978. Presentations were given to dozens of schools. Hundreds of students participated in a, quote, real woman essay contest, and a parade was held. A few years later, the idea caught on within communities, school districts, and organizers across the country. In 1980, President Jimmy Carter issued the first presidential proclamation declaring the week of March 8th as National Women's History Week. The US Congress followed suit the next year, passing a resolution establishing a national celebration. 6 years later, the National Women's History Project successfully petitioned Congress to expand the event to the entire month of March. Women are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we are in hot water. Eleanor Roosevelt. One child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world. Malala Yousafzai. Women should be celebrated every day, but a month dedicated to the female empowerment is extremely special. It doesn't just honor the iconic women who have changed history, but encourages new generations to dream big and know that anything is possible. Molly McCook. Next on our agenda is our delegate selection process. One of the things that we had talked about previously was our organizational update. And with that, I just would love for people to, chairs, folks within the legislative district, if you have found success reaching out to accomplish your affirmative action goal and you're willing to share, this is an opportunity either to ask questions or to collaborate on best practices around organizational recruiting, organizational outreach for the delegate selection process. Are there any chairs who are willing to share how they're going about reaching out to their communities? Is there any help you need? And with that, I will let you use your raised hands. Mary Scanlon.
Okay, I'll go. Well, I called through our membership list and that was helpful, frankly. And actually, because, that calling through the membership list did not in and of itself accomplish the goals. However, it started some great conversations with some of our members. And so that sort of like branched to a second thing. Like we have one of our really dedicated advocates is an Asian woman in the international district. And she just yesterday put us in touch with an owner of a Chinese restaurant in the international district who has registered to run as one of our delegates. And she's going to be at our get together next Tuesday. And so we have little things like that going on. We have a lot of the usual suspects, of course, filing to run, and that's fine and great too. But we have made some inroads. I think we probably have a way to go in terms of our formal process, but I'm somewhat encouraged by it. So.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Mary. Are there any other questions or sharing a best practice regarding reaching out for your affirmative action goals from the LD chairs or folks on the e-board who are a part of the delegate selection process? Okay, thank you. Moving on, we have an update regarding our PCO recruitment as well as redistricting that Alex Erickson will be reviewing for us. He is joining I just gave him a note, so he will be joining in a few minutes. So what I would like to do is move down into our agenda and talk about our endorsement meeting. One of the changes we have made is that our endorsement meeting will be May 17th from 6 to 9 p.m. And this is a change. So I want to make it really clear we are moving our endorsement meeting from May 17th to from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We also really need the legislative district, so all of the chairs, anyone from the e-board, please give us your endorsement meeting dates. This is super helpful. We really need them. And we don't want to harass you too badly, but we will. But we would just love if you can email the endorsement leadership and let us know your endorsement meeting date. Some I know are already set by bylaws, so that won't be too hard. Please just make sure that we know those meeting dates. And again, we want to be really clear. We're moving our endorsement meeting to May 17th. Carolyn. Carolyn, I see your hand raised.
Unmute. Okay.
You are.
So do you mean, when you say endorsement meeting, do you mean the endorsement committee meeting? Or do you mean the meeting where we do endorsements?
So the 5th LD endorsement meeting for your legislative district?
Well, yeah, right. What does that mean? Does it mean, are you wanting to know what meetings are we going to vote on endorsements?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
And this is not the days that our endorsement committee meets, but this is, when do we plan to vote on endorsements?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Bunny Hatcher.
Our endorsement meeting will not be prior to May 17th, but we will be hopefully conducting a couple of early endorsements. So we will at our April meeting, at our regular meeting in April. So we will make sure that we get that information to the endorsement committee, this endorsement committee, so they can include them in the block
Wonderful.
for recommended endorsements.
Thank you so much. And Cap Hipkin, and you know the email. I just want to make sure. Thank you. Just to let our team know. You've been a great member of the endorsement committee.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions regarding this change? And has Alex Erickson joined? If not, we can move down in our agenda. I don't think he's joined. Melissa, would this be a time to move to the budget proposal, and then we can come back to the PCO recruitment and our redistrict?
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
Give me a second. Okay. Carrie, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this should look very, very familiar because it is almost exactly the same thing as what we passed last year. Same structure, same format, nearly the same numbers. Some things change between even and odd years. I just got my dinner delivery, so I'm sorry for the distraction. No new categories, no fundamental changes. The big change is that for reorg, this budget here is what allows us to print and mail the PCO certificates to everybody and upgrade our Zoom. I was asked to budget a little bit more to potentially have a social event to welcome PCOs. So that is what is in that line item. For the e-board, the other things that were requested in the budget, I fit them into the existing categories, and there is enough money for the things that were requested. So any questions from folks about this document? I didn't get any ahead of time, so I think people are familiar with the format, which is great. But happy to take questions now. I'm also happy to turn it back to Carrie to proceed with approving it if there are no questions.
Are there, and since I see no questions, I will entertain a motion to adopt the 2024 budget proposal.
Melissa Taylor, so moved.
Second.
Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Hearing none, the budget proposal for 2024 is adopted. Thank you. And we are still waiting for Alex Erickson for a portion of our agenda. So thank you everyone for being patient. We are going to move through our agenda to our committee updates. And with that, I will call on our volunteer and canvassing lead, Amy Hamrick, if we can spotlight Amy and she can just give us an update, talk about opportunities to volunteer and what she needs.
Thanks, Carrie. So the last time I gave an update, we had been in the middle of IDing Democrats in Issaquah, and we are going to be moving on to do that around King County. So the next set of canvases will be in Kent, and I'm just finalizing exactly where and setting dates up. So I will be sending those out to the LDs when they are finalized, and just ask that you share it with your members and volunteers so that we can get big groups out. Identifying Democrats at this state of the calendar year and the election cycle will help the candidates when we are in the get out the vote portion, so that we know that we can just go straight to known Democrats and make sure that they come out and vote for our candidates. So just look for an email from me. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Amy? I don't see any. Thank you, Amy, for that update. Much appreciated.
Thanks.
Next, Andrew Ashufu to give our DEI committee update and also another call for volunteers. So Andrew, I will turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I am calling for volunteers for the states, for Seattle City Pride, and I am getting a form right now so that you could fill. We need graphic designers to help us get designs for our logo and motto for this year. And yeah, I think that's all. I'm going to put that in right now. If Melissa could share it with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And how many volunteers are you looking for?
So I would say 15 would be okay. So we need volunteers for planning, volunteers that would help stage and coordinate people that would work on the Pride Day, and also volunteers to help us carry banners, because we want to be in control this time, unlike last time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Much appreciated. And we let me just go ahead and I will remove Andrew's spotlight. Thank you. We are waiting for one of our members who I know is running a little bit late. So with that, I will open for good of the order, and then we will come back to Alex once he's able to join. So we're moving through our agenda, and if you would use your raised hand, if anyone has good of the order, our meeting is going quite quickly tonight. Thank you. Shirag.
Thank you. I just have two quick updates. I'm not sure if you guys have heard, but I think all of the Democratic congressional campaigns are partnering with the program called Democracy Summers. It's a nationwide summer internship or fellowship for students that are high school or college age or kind of in that range it's paid. Some of the campaigns are doing stipends, some of them are doing hourly paid. I'll make sure to put the link in the chat, but if it's the 9th district, we would love to have them on Team Smith, but I bet all the other reps would as well like to have any, high school, college age students on their team as well. So no matter where you live in King County, I think they would all appreciate if you could send it out to anyone that that's looking for a summer opportunity. And then the second update, unrelated to Alex's PCO update, I'm working on a really fun project with Teach with TVW. They're the legislative broadcasting service down in Olympia, if you've ever watched a committee meeting recorded or online. And they have an educational arm called Teach with TVW. And we're working on creating PCO awareness lessons and activities for that are nonpartisan. So not necessarily pro-Democrat, but it's supposed to be pro-democracy, that all of our teachers can use across the state, our civic educators, to talk about what is a PCO? How does it actually work in our system and how they can be a part of it? I'll also put the link to the flyer there. So I guess my ask is if you know any civic educators in high school or community colleges or nonprofits that are involved in the civic awareness space, would love to get in touch with them and see if they'd be interested in piloting it before the end of the current school year. And I'll make sure my email's in the chat if anyone has any questions. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hannah Floss.
Hi, I just wanted to let everyone know that we've got 2 training dates for the April election. If you are not yet an election observer, you can attend one of these 2 trainings. I put the link to the sign up in the chat, or you can email me at elections@kcdems.org. Thanks.
Thank you. And with that, we do have Alexander Erickson, who we can spotlight. And we just had a quick meeting. It's gone very smoothly. So thank you. We've gone through a bit of the agenda, but one of the things that I want to make sure that you cover is both our PC recruitment and our activities, as well as redistricting LDs that will be affected and engagement that we're expecting. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, of course. So first of all, I'm coming to you live from 3rd Avenue, so I apologize for the ambient noise. So I've been following this redistricting court case decently closely, particularly this last month. The judge finally issued his decision in the case in terms of which remedial map will be used. And I've been following the appeals process for that map. It does not look likely that the map will be overturned on appeal before this upcoming election. So we can be fairly certain this is the map we'll see for 2024. The big win for not just Democrats, but especially Latinos in the Yakima Valley is that the 14th legislative district is now not only a minority majority district and a Latino majority district, but also a district that elected Joe Biden by a comfortable margin and has had almost top to bottom Democratic victories. So very excited to support Maria Beltran and Chelsea Dimas, and I believe it's Raul Martinez, who are all Democrats running in that district. In terms of what it means for King County, we had 3 LDs that were impacted in King County, the 31st, the 12th, and the 5th. The 31st is going to lose Enumclaw and rural parts of King County around Enumclaw. So the 31st in King County will be pretty much limited just to the areas around Auburn, southeast Auburn specifically. And its partisanship it changed, I think, 1 or 2 points more Republican. But it wasn't really a target for an LD flip in 2024 as it stood anyway. But looking at the more competitive districts that are now more competitive, both the 5th and the 12th have become about 4 points more toward the center. So the 5th went from a D+15 to a D+10 or 11 district. And the 12th went from an R+8 to an R+4 district. The 5th is picking up Enumclaw and the rural areas from the 31st and is giving up Snoqualmie Ridge and a couple precincts in North Bend. And the 12th is picking those up from the 5th and is losing East Wenatchee. This also forced the sitting state senator in the 12th to move from East Wenatchee to Wenatchee. And this is his first time running in the district as it's currently constructed. Particularly, this is his first time ever running west of the Cascades. So we're going to show Senator Hawkins what King County is made of. And we're going to show him that he needs to organize like his job if he wants to keep his job. So if you know anyone, so currently we're working with the 12th and the 5th and the PCOs and the 31st and the PCOs that are impacted to let them know about the changes. We're working especially closely with the 12th on candidate recruitment. I'm also starting to talk to labor and to our partners at the Washington State Democrats about candidate recruitment because the 12th it's going to be a hard sell to candidates. But if you know anyone who lives out there who'd be interested in running, please let them know that we are interested in supporting them. So yeah, the 12th is a huge opportunity for us to flip. It's gone from a Trump seat and a seat that voted against Dr. Schreier in 2022 to a seat that Biden and Dr. Schreier won in both of those elections. So huge opportunity there. So if you have any more questions about this, I'm happy to chat, but I've been talking with the 31st and the 12th and the 5th pretty closely. So hopefully, if anyone else has any questions about it, please let me know. But at King County, our strategy looking into 2024 is probably going to be centered around winning, turning out voters to win statewide elections, holding the 5th and flipping the 12th. Those are going to be our 3 top priorities for 2024. Looking at PCO recruitment, if the filing deadline is coming up in the first week of May, I will be holding a what does it mean to be a PCO and how to file sort of meeting rundown the weekend before filing week. And then I'm looking to hopefully have a couple of troubleshooting meetings where people can hop in if they have trouble filing and get their question answered during filing week. Those dates are all TBD, but I will get those out to you this month and sooner rather than later. PCO recruitment, we do need a lot of PCOs. Our special LDs of focus are the 33rd, 37th, 45th, and 48th, given that we are expecting a potential, if not a certain, legislative replacement in each of those districts. The 33rd, we applaud Senator Karen Kaiser's retirement. She has been an incredible legislator over many years. And I actually recently went and spoke at MLK Labor, and I know Labor is really fired up about getting someone in that seat who can carry on that legacy of fighting for labor. So 33rd will be replacing Senator Kaiser, and then in the 37th, 45th, and 48th, Senators Dingra, Kuderer, and Saldana are all running for higher office, so their replacement will depend on their electoral performance, and we wish all of them the best. So if you have any questions about PCO recruitment, please feel free to let me know. But we are especially trying to work very closely with labor on these on picking up PCOs in these districts. And the other thing is, if you know someone who is interested in being the candidate to one of the 3 candidates to replace a member who will be stepping down in either the 33rd, 37th, 45th, or 48th, you need to let them know that they need to start organizing now, and they need to start recruiting PCOs now to run in 2024, because the PCOs elected in May are most likely going to be the ones who will be voting on the legislative replacement. So if anyone has any questions about either of those topics, I'm happy to take them now.
Does anyone have any questions? Mary Scanlon.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Alex. Is this
Hi.
the same thing? Is this the same thing that you went to with our own Jamie Fackler?
That is, in fact, the same thing I went to with Jamie Fackler. So for those who don't know, Jamie Fackler is the PCO chair of the 37th and a union delegate to MLK Labor. And he's been doing incredible work in the 37th recruiting labor PCOs, but PCOs in general.
Yeah, so thank you. And this is kind of a follow-up question.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor that there was going to be some PCO training that was going to involve, is Ann Udaloy on this call? I heard a rumor about that, but I don't know. Was something on April 30th? Or is that the same thing as what you're talking about? Maybe.
I think those might be happening in concert with each other. I'll confirm dates with everyone, and we'll get everyone on the same page and send out some emails letting people know.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
You. Tim Burns. Tim Burns.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. The PCOs that are elected in May take office on December 1. So it's going to be the current PCOs that elect the replacements in those LDs.
I've actually gotten guidance from the state party on this. And the state party's bylaws basically say that if a PCO, or sorry, not a PCO, if a legislative replacement is triggered after the November elections, I believe is the cutoff, that it's the PCOs who are seated after or on December 1st who do the legislative replacement. This is also a bit of a thing that we're talking with the county council about, because we'll need to make sure we have a special meeting from the county council in order to get these replacements through. But if you know something, if you have guidance that contradicts that, I'd be happy to hear it, because that would make my job a little easier.
Thank you. Roger Ledbetter.
Yeah, hi, Alexander. I just wanted to double check because of the redistricting. I live in Snoqualmie, and I heard that Meadowbrook, the precinct that I live in, was going to be transferred to the 12th. But you said Snoqualmie Ridge, and I'm definitely not on the Ridge. Am I being transferred to the 12th?
You said Meadowbrook, right?
Yes.
I believe you are one of the 2 or 3 unincorporated precincts that is also being transferred. Yes. But the state party's also given guidance that the PCOs will remain as constituted for this current session. So you will stay in your current LD through 2024, and then once reorg happens, that's when you'll get moved. But I do apologize for that.
It's a bummer for me.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because I've been talking to some of the people in the 5th, and they're kind of upset with the fact that they're splitting Old Snoqualmie and Snoqualmie Ridge because there's already a decent amount of division between those two communities, and so it's going to take some organizing between both the 5th, the 12th, and King County to try and keep those communities intact and together. And so rest assured, we'll be trying to help make sure that the transition is smooth and that your community, you keep your community as much as you can. All right, any other questions?
Any other questions?
All right, cool. Thank you so much thank you all so much. And I look forward to working with y'all this upcoming month and through November.
Fabulous. Thank you, Alexander. Enjoy.
Thank you.
And King County Democrats, we have run through our agenda. We are back at good of the order. Is there anyone else who would like to share good of the order? Martin Cheney.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple words about the endorsement committee's process here, because we didn't have any report this month because we didn't have any candidates to bring forward. If LDs had made early endorsements, we would have brought those forward, but we are not aware of any such LDs that made legislative endorsements. But as part of this, I just wanted to fill people in about how tremendously successful we have been in the interviews we've done so far. I want to start with a big shout out and a bow down to Kat Pipkins, who has done a miraculous job. I don't know how she did it, but we scheduled one of our interview meetings. We had back-to-back interviews with the top 2 Democratic Attorney General candidates. And then just last night, we had a great endorsement meeting with 4 candidates, 2 of whom were the top 2 Democratic governor candidates. I don't know about you, but I don't know how to call up these high-profile candidates and get them scheduled to come to us at the meetings that we set. Well, there's a little bit of back and forth there, but huge thanks to Kat. Huge thanks also to Beth Baisley, who has done she has put in overtime and plus time getting our endorsement questions prepared and finalized so that we can have smoothly scripted meetings. So without those people, and also Aaron Schrader, who has done miracles putting together automation of our process so that we know that we are actually reaching out to all of the filed candidates with the PDC. Many thanks to people here who for accommodating our special meeting for endorsements. For people who aren't really following what's going on there, we are trying to thread the needle on this tight time schedule so that we can endorse right as soon after filing week as we can, with enough time for us to actually convene a meeting of all 17 LD delegations to the endorsement committee and make endorsement recommendations, and have those be done in time so that our great endorsed candidates will be able to put that fact in their ballot statements. So thanks to everybody here for accommodating that little schedule tweak. And thanks in advance to all of the legislative districts who are going to not only tell us when their endorsement meetings are, but who they endorse, so that when it's appropriate, we know to include your decisions in the endorsement reports that we bring forward. So just in case people are wondering why we want to know, we actually have reasons for all these things. Yeah, and we implemented this new novel process where we are inviting the legislative district endorsement committee members to attend our endorsement interview meetings. These 2 meetings we had, we're getting around 60 participants, so it's a huge turnout for those. We're hoping that everybody is finding those very successful. We have had only positive comments about it so far. If you have a negative comment, please just send those messages to the endorsement leadership email that's in the chat, and we will try to accommodate your needs there. But we're hoping that this is saving or making it possible for LDs to have useful information about these candidates who are not going to make it to all 17 LDs, even though we know they really should somehow find that time, but they don't. So thank you all, and I'll be happy to answer questions if there are any.
Are there any questions for Martin? I see, and then we'll go to Justin and then Roger. Okay. Justin, I saw your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm here on behalf of Paul Chapman for the 43rd, and I just wanted to share some exciting news I saw in my feed during this meeting that just broke regarding Alabama's state house. Marilyn Lands, who is a Democrat in Alabama, just flipped a Trump district. In House District 10, running on reproductive freedom rights, and it was a landslide, 62 to 38.
Oh my gosh, that is such good news. That is so fabulous. That is something to follow nationwide. That is fabulous. Thank you for sharing. Roger Ledbetter.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick heads up. One of the things that I do is work on X, what used to be Twitter. I work for a couple of different groups that are promoting Democratic policies and Democratic candidates. And a week or so ago, something changed on Twitter, and my notifications page was absolutely filled with MAGA calling me a liar. In the last 2 years that I've been working with these groups, I have never blocked anyone off my account. And then in that week, I must have blocked about 50 people. So I don't know if that campaign is going on or what that is all about, but it may very well be why Elon Musk bought Twitter. At any rate, it wasn't just me that experienced this. There were people all over the groups that I work with that were getting completely flooded with MAGA ugliness. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. Is there any other good of the order? I don't see anyone's hand raised. This has been a very productive meeting. I just want to say I appreciate all of you giving your time on this Tuesday to the important work for King County Democrats. And I appreciate you all. I will send a follow-up email out. Until then, there have been lots of things to pass on, lots of dates, and please email the endorsement-leadership@kcdems.org with your LD endorsement meeting and who you've endorsed. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Any objections? Hearing none, our group is adjourned for the night. Thank you so much.